This is probably one of the most exciting and expensive packages I have ever received. So if you can't already tell, I bought the full FDF suspension, everything. So right now I just have lowers and tie rods in the rear. I also bought uppers now, which are, I think, these ones, or maybe these ones, I don't remember. It's one of these. And I bought the full front Mantis kit. So let's unwrap everything and we'll see how it looks. And there we have it, the entire FDF catalog, basically, besides the rear lower control arms that are already installed in my car and the tie rods. I am very broke right now. So let's break down this kit a little bit. We have the drop knuckle, which lowers the mounting point of the lower suspension, and the upper control arm is mounted upside down on the original knuckle. So basically it just moves all the mounting points up to correct the roll center or something like that. Also, tie rod is full billet all the way to the inner. I think that's what this is. Maybe not, I don't know. I gotta look into it. And all right, and then we have the lower control arms. These things are absolute beefcakes. They're like 20 pounds probably. Holy crap, look at this steel, dude. That is huge. And we have, of course, full camber, caster, track width, coilover mounting point. Everything's fully adjustable. Then we have the upper control arms, which also have camber and track width adjustment, and on-car camber adjustment through these two captive bolt things, whatever. And then lastly, we have the rear upper control arms, which will help with my rear camber. And then lastly, we have the rear traction arms. I'm gonna start with the rear because it's already halfway done. All I have to do is put on the rear uppers and the traction links, and the rear will be complete. And then we'll move on to the front because the front is gonna be a lot more work in terms of alignment and all that. So we'll do that later. Damn it. So if you're wondering why I just removed my subframe that I just restored a couple months ago, it's because it's not pretty enough for me. I can't have these arms, like this full kit looking gorgeous, attached to this ugly ass subframe. This will also give me a chance to either get new bolts or restore these because everything rusted. I don't know why this car didn't even see any rain. I mean, yeah, it did see rain. Didn't see any snow or anything, no salt, and all the bolts are completely rusted. And I used, like, remember when I put it back together, I used the POR 15 rust remover thing, and they were all completely clean, but they are disgusting. So I'm either going to buy new zinc bolts off McMaster, try to find all the same bolts, paint these or coat them or something. I don't know why I do this to myself. Every single time I see a rusty bolt and I have to remove my entire subframe. All right, the whole subframe is out, and now we can start to see why I wanted to remove it in the first place. So if we look close, we got rust basically everywhere now. This is from just installing it, and then also I noticed my battery drain, which is on the floor down there, is spraying fluid all over everything. You see this yellow discoloration?
That's all battery acid. So it's just, it ruined the finish. And when I installed it, I scratched it up a bunch. So when I reinstall it after it's powder coated, I'm gonna put a rug down or some spare carpet or whatever and then install it properly. But yeah, it's not looking pretty. It's all peeling, chipping. It's ugly.
So that's why I pulled it out. And then we got the knuckles out.
I cleaned off all the grease on these, but for some reason this stub, I think this is the passenger side, this axle keeps leaking grease through like right here or something, or here. I don't know where it's coming out of, but every time I remove this axle, it's covered in grease. This one's not so bad, but then the grease like goes in the threads and then the bolts loosen up. So like even if I were to put like Loctite in there, the grease would just seep in there and then loosen the bolts up. I don't know if you saw, but most of the axle bolts are like hand tight.
The grease was basically just holding them in, which is kind of sketchy, but I do bolt check my car before every event, so I would have noticed that if I went drifting. Oh, and I finally got a electric ratchet. Actually, my wife got it for me for my birthday. This thing is freaking legit. I love it. Made getting all the small bolts out so much easier.
I'm actually surprised how well the metallic paint is holding up on the diff. The diff is the only thing that's not rusted.
The metallic paint freaking rocks. I mean my billet diff. That's a billet diff. Alrighty, I finally have all the old suspension off. Look how
Crusty those old control arms are. Look at these ball joints. Freaking floppy doobers, dude. Everything's roasted on this car.
That's why I went just full balls out with this.
So everything's disassembled. I'm just playing around with it right now, trying to figure out how everything mounts and all that. Cause
holy crap, there's a lot of adjustment and I'm kind of lost
and a bit overwhelmed.
Why does this move? I have no idea why that moves. So,
yeah, this is gonna be pretty tough to figure it all out.
But I'm just gonna start bolting everything up. My only complaint with this kit
is it's not on-car adjustable. I have to take the ball joint or the Heim joint off to be able to adjust it, which kind of sucks, but
it is what it is. The rear, however, is fully adjustable on car. So the lowers are right here.
You just loosen these nuts and then you can bring this in and out. And same with the uppers.
And the traction length. So the whole rear kit is fully adjustable on car without taking a single Heim joint off. But the Mantis kit is not. Which I guess once you dial in the Mantis kit, you don't really make front adjustments, I guess. You know, because you have your toe. The toe is adjustable, so I mean, that's probably the only thing you're gonna change. You don't really change front camber. Like once you have it dialed in how you want it, that's just how it's gonna be. Like you don't really adjust it much. At least I don't think you do. So the first thing I'm actually gonna do is install new wheel studs. All right, wheel studs are in. You might be wondering why one of them is all crusty and black. Well, because on my passenger side, my wheel bearing is failing. This one is a lot more solid. This one is still okay. So I'm gonna keep running this one and use this one on the passenger side. Eventually, I'm gonna cut off the tie rod mount and get these powder coated, and then I'm gonna give the cut ones to Tyler so that he could have more angle on his 3UZ SC400. All right, so I got the whole kit installed and boy is it glorious. Look at that. Nothing hits anywhere. It's freaking awesome. I can't believe how much angle this is, dude. That's like almost 90 degrees, dude. How is that? Yeah, this shit is wild. So let me show you something crazy. See my coilover? This is where the coilover used to be. This is how much I had to extend it because there's so much more leverage on the coilover now. The whole suspension gets compressed a bunch. I don't know how to explain it. It's basically, well, because it's a longer lever, the suspension is getting compressed more. So to compensate for that, you need to extend the body of the shock. There we go. That's how much poke I'm getting. And I think I'm gonna have more poke. I gotta bring my wide body and I'm gonna be adjusting the arms because right now the upper arms are at their shortest length and the lower arm is extended about a ½ inch just to give it a little bit more camber. When I compress the suspension, I'm at about 8.5 degrees of camber. I'll probably lower that. I don't think I need that much camber. We'll see. And I want the leading wheel at full lock to be totally flat with the ground, which is why you raise the suspension so much, because you're countering the caster by adding more camber. I don't even fully understand it myself, but I don't know if you'll be able to see this. So see, the wheel is cambered now, but if I turn it to full lock on the leading side, see that? It is pretty much flat. So that's what you want. You want the most contact patch on the leading wheel so you have the most grip. So that's why you add a bunch of camber for drifting. That's the only reason. It's not to look cool. It's not to fit wheels. It's to have the most contact patch at full lock. And if I turn the wheel the other direction, you see our one and only clearance issue, and that is the sway bar. So sway bar delete incoming, and I'm gonna have to come up with some sort of custom sway bar solution. So now that this is all on, nothing's tightened because I gotta figure out all the adjustments and stuff. I'm gonna go do the other side. I'm not gonna film it, it's the same thing, just putting bolts in. And I'm still waiting for my subframe, so I can't do the rear yet. I will. Once I get the subframe, we'll throw the rear on. The rear is gonna be a lot easier, and just zero camber. And the only thing I have to figure out is the traction links and what they do. I didn't show this, but in case you're wondering, this is how the drop knuckle attaches. So it uses the lower control arm bolt and the lower caliper bolt. It comes with a longer bolt for the caliper, but I think it needs to be a little bit longer. All right, well, it's been a few days, and the only thing I've been doing is buying bolts and painting bolts. So first of all, every bolt I could replace, like these ones, these ones, these ones, those. All the bolts that I could buy, I bought brand new zinc bolts, class 10.9. They were super expensive. And then the bolts I couldn't buy, like all the eccentric bolts, I cannot find these zinc coated, obviously. They are OEM. Those I just painted with that metallic paint that I used on the diff to make it a billet diff. That paint is very durable. However, once I painted these bolts with this paint, it's not very durable. These have been drying here for like 4 days and they're still not dry. I don't understand. These are the front upper control arm bolts. I think I'm gonna have to learn to zinc coat bolts because this is very upsetting, and I want all my bolts to be super shiny and never rust because I live in Chicago and everything rusts and I hate it. I got brand new bolts for the calipers as well, also zinc plated. Got coilover bolts, also zinc plated. I took off this clip because the brake line is too short if it's on, and I removed the sway bar and all my underglow is now dangling, so I have to put my underglow somewhere else. All right, it's been literal days, but I finally got the front kit fully installed and somewhat aligned, baseline basically. So here is the entire kit. There's a lot to go through in this thing. I guess I'll just start from the top and work my way down. So first of all, these heim joints on the upper arms needed to be extended because this was hitting. It's not anymore. Because they're extended, you see they're on an angle going outwards. That means the space between them is wider, so I had to stack washers right there. Got washers stacked there, a couple washers there, a washer there. Then obviously I had to remove my entire brake line bracket over here, so the brake line's just dangling, which is fine. It wraps around here. It's not really rubbing on anything that badly. There's no sharp edges or anything here, so it's not an issue. So this arm is fully compressed, and the lower arm is also fully in. And then the eccentrics are somewhat in the center. So that one's in the center, this one's in the center. I haven't measured caster yet, but I am at 4.5 degrees of camber at ride height, which is what FDF recommends for this kit. I had to extend the coilover about 2.5, 3 inches almost. The longer arms compress the springs more, so you need to have a longer coilover to compensate for the higher compression. These caliper holes did not line up. I had to drill those out and use a die grinder to kind of make it fit. These bolts I actually put in myself because the bolts that it came with are these bolts, and when you install them they don't actually reach the nylon. So this is a 50mm bolt and it does not reach the nylon. So I ordered 60mm bolts and a slightly shorter nylock. You see that there? There is a gap there, so the lower control arm bolt and the knuckle adapter bolt are not touching. And then when the lower arms arrived, the spacers were put on wrong. So this side has 2 longer spacers and this side has 2 shorter spacers. But when the arms arrived, this side had the longer ones and this side had the shorter ones. So I had to flip those around. I had to rotate the brake line. I full lock it in this direction. The brake line was really stretched out. You can see now it has some slack. So I had to rotate it, so now I have to bleed my brakes because some fluid came out. I think that's it for the front. So minor issues, just a little annoying. Maybe Soars or whatever they made this kit for. Maybe they made it for an SC400 or a Soar or Supra. I don't know, maybe knuckles are slightly different. I don't know. It fits, it's easy to align. The thing I was upset about when I first got it was that the arms are not on-car adjustable. It is actually very easy and fast to adjust camber, for example. I think the best way to adjust camber is to do it on the upper arm. Very quick and easy, takes me like 30 seconds, pop off the bolt, you know, drop the nut, loosen it, twist the Heim joint, and you're done. Still waiting for my subframe, so once that comes in, the rear will pop in real fast. All right, well, yesterday I actually forgot something. Can you see the problem? Okay, let me do something and then maybe you'll see the problem.
Do you see the problem yet?
Okay, I have to do one more thing if you don't see the problem yet. Do you see the problem now? So this is approximately ride height because now I have the wheel lifted up, the shock is compressed, and it's starting to lift the car off the jacks, which means the car is almost at ride height. Obviously, that's not
a lot of clearance for, you know, suspension travel. So I think you know where this is going.
That's a pretty good cut. I think this will be enough for testing because, as you know, eventually this is all gonna get cut off and that will replace it. But for now, for this video, we're just gonna do some testing, I should say. All right, so I mocked up the front fender a little bit and it is insane. All right, you guys wanna see a little sneak peek before I do the full wide body video? All right, here it is. This looks badass, but obviously there's some issues. First of all, I don't know if it's wide enough. Should I go wider or should I keep some of the poke? My only concern is at full lock. Let me see if I can turn the wheel. Actually, it's not that bad. I think the fender's gonna be fine. The bumper and the side skirt are getting absolutely demolished though. As I was turning on the other side, I heard this buckle. And yeah, it caught the fender and bent it in. See that? Yeah, it's a little dented. So fenders are gonna get super chopped. Side skirts are gonna get a little trim, and I'm gonna have to redesign this a little bit. I'm just gonna probably go straight down and then curve out here. We'll see. It's obviously gonna go lower too. This is too high right now. Well, I think the jack is just not a good representation. Once the car has all of its weight on the ground, I think it will go a little lower, but we'll see.
might have to lower it probably a little bit.
That's enough of the wide body. This is the angle kit full suspension video. So the wide body will be back probably next video. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that, because that's going to be huge, literally and figuratively and spiritually and mathematically. All right, well, it's been like a week since I've done anything, but I have done some things off camera, so let me show you what I've done, because I still don't have my subframe. So first of all, if you remember, I said the sway bar, I don't know where I put it, somewhere over there, there's a sway bar, and it doesn't fit.
However, all my power steering lines, these ones right here, the return lines for the cooler, and the underglow were all attached to the sway bar. So I had to move those. You can see the high pressure line I clamped onto the rack itself. That's this line right here. And the return lines I zip tied to some hard lines on the rack. So that stuff is all out of the way. And the underglow, you can see, is right there on the subframe. Everything's nice and tidy.
I removed the rest of my exhaust because, like I said in a previous video, the heat shield that I put in the transmission tunnel.
See that aluminum heat shield in there?
Yeah, it doesn't really do much. Got the bucket full of water and I got fiberglass wrap in there. I'm gonna go wrap the exhaust right now. Hopefully that will reduce the transmission tunnel heat. Jesus Christ, my exhaust is disgusting. I'm not gonna film this. This is boring. It's just me sitting there wrapping an exhaust with fiberglass wrap. You've seen many people do it. In case you're wondering, here's how to crimp and make them really tight, these metal zip ties. So obviously get them as tight as you can by hand, like that.
Then you cut off everything except about 1 inch or 2 centimeters.
And then you're gonna need pliers like these, curved needle nose pliers. And what you do is, so you grab it from like this end. I don't know, do you understand that? So you grab from this end, from the opposite end that it's facing. You grab it around the middle. So you grab it like in the middle of the end of the zip tie, and you twist it around like this, create a little loop. Then you take that loop and you squeeze it, crimp it together. So see, now you got a smaller loop. And then you do that one more time. Loop it around, crimp that down, and there you go. Nice and sturdy, it's not going anywhere. Well, I'm gonna call it. It's been 3 weeks since I dropped the subframe off. I got it back, but it's somehow worse than when I dropped it off. So I'm just gonna call it. I'm gonna end this video here. So I'm not gonna say anything about the person who did this. This is after me stripping it, because it's just easily chipping off. I'm just screwdriver and it just pops right off. Obviously there was zero prep done, and then the powder coat was just tossed on top. So yeah, I'm gonna end the video here. The angle kit is all installed. Rear suspension, not yet. I'll make another video where I do a first drive of this and all that. And yeah, one more thing I did was I got some design engineering
silicone spray for this stuff. So it's like, it makes it, I guess, more durable and it doesn't shed as much. So
I put that on
this part of the exhaust. I don't know if you can see that. There it is. And then I also added a little bit of heat shield over the exhaust or above the exhaust.
I'm kind of in a rush now. It's currently like middle of August and September 10th is Tuner Evo and I have to get the wide body done. I got new coilovers.
See that little sneak peek?
I gotta get a shitload of work done in the next like 3 weeks to get ready for Tuner Evo. Gotta make the car absolutely mint. I wanna try to actually win the show. It's not a show car, but the things that I've done, I think I could win the show, or win at least some trophy, which I've never done before, which would be kind of cool. So I don't get why people lie. That's gonna be it, ding dongs. Make sure you check out the new shirts, check out the stickers. Yeah, lots of new stuff. Go check it out. All in the description in the website. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Like the video, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next week. Not in 3 weeks. I'm actually gonna try to upload next week. So, peace out.
America, America.
Do you have your passport?